Prabhupada ki. ISKCON founder Acharya BBT founder Acharya Savior of the whole world Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahasa Prajaka Acharya Ashtota Shat. His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की। श्री श्री राधा गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की। गंगा माई की, जमुना माई की, तुलसी महारानी की, भक्ति देवी की, गोलोक प्रेमधन नाम संकीर्तन की, मायापुर धाम की, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की। ताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to assembled devotees, Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. कृपया करके नीचे बैठ जाइए, अभी नरसिम्हा आरती होगा। जय श्री नरसिंहदेव भगवान की। नमस्ते नरसिंहाय, नमस्ते नरसिंहाय, हे नमस्ते नरसिंहाय, नमस्ते नरसिंहाय। प्रहलाद लाददायिने, प्रहलाद लाददायिने, हिरण्यकशिपुर्वक्षः, हिरण्यकशिपुर्वक्षः, शीलटङ्कनखलये, हे शीलटङ्कनखलये, शीलटङ्कनखलये। इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा, इतो नरसिंहा, इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा, इतो नरसिंहा, इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा, इतो नरसिंहा, यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा, यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा, यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा, यतो यतो बहे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा, बहे नरसिंहा, बहे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा, बहे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा, हे नरसिंहा नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे, नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे, तव कर कमलवरे नाखा अद्भुत श्रृंगार, दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तानुभृंगा, केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे कर कमल वरे नाकाम मधुत श्रृंगार केशवदृता नरहरि रूपा तव कर कमल वरे नाखा अद्भुत श्रृंगार दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृंगा केशवदृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमल वरे नाथा दलिता अनुबिंगा केशवदृता नरहरि रूपा हरे जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल सर्वभक्ति विघ्न विनाशक नरसिंहदेव भगवान की भक्त श्रवण प्रहलाद महाराज की जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की ताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरे कृष्णा। अभी अंग्रेजी में यहाँ पर भगवत गीता में प्रवचन होगा, तो कृपया करके शांति से बैठे रहिए। थोड़ी देर में भगवत गीता पे प्रवचन स्टार्ट होगा। सो नाउ देयर विल बी द क्लास ऑन भगवत गीता इन इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज, सो कीप बी सीटेड। हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्ण। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. जय कलियुग पावन श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we'll continue our discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. We are on chapter 3, text number 24. Chapter 3 is entitled Karma Yoga. 24th. Utsideyurime loka nakuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyami ma prajaha. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put into ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. This is Krishna saying to Arjuna. Purport. Varna Sankar is unwanted population which disturbs the peace of the general society. In order to check this social disturbance, there are prescribed rules and regulations by which the population can automatically become peaceful and organized for spiritual progress in life. When Lord Krishna descends, naturally he deals with such rules and regulations in order to maintain the prestige and necessity of such important performances. The Lord is the father of all living entities, and if the living entities are misguided, indirectly the responsibility goes to the Lord. Therefore, whenever there is general disregard of regulative principles, the Lord himself descends and corrects the society. We should, however, note carefully that although we have to follow in the footsteps of the Lord, we still have to remember that we cannot imitate him. Following and imitating are not on the same level. We cannot imitate the Lord by lifting Govardhan hill as the Lord did in his childhood. It is impossible for any human being. We have to follow his instructions, but we may not imitate him at any time. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto affirms, it is affirmed, Naitat samacharet jatu manasapi hyanishvara vinashyatyachman maudhyad yatha rudro dijam visham. One should simply follow the instructions of the Lord and his empowered servants. Their instructions are all good for us, and any intelligent person will perform them as instructed. However, one should guard against trying to imitate their actions. One should not try to drink the ocean of poison in imitation of Lord Shiva. We should always consider the position of the asuras, or those who can actually control the movements of the sun and moon. Position of the Ishwaras, or those who can actually control the movements of the sun and moon, is superior. Without such power, one cannot imitate the Ishwaras who are super powerful. Lord Shiva drank poison to the extent of swallowing an ocean. But if any common man tries to drink even a fragment of such poison, he will be killed. There are many pseudo devotees of Lord Shiva who want to indulge in smoking ganja and similar intoxicating drugs, forgetting that by so imitating the acts of Lord Shiva, they are calling death very near. Similarly, there are some pseudo devotees of Lord Krishna who prefer to imitate the Lord in his Ras Leela or dance of love, forgetting their inability to lift Govardhan hill. It is best, therefore, that we not try to imitate the powerful, but simply follow their instructions. Nor should one try to occupy their posts without qualification. There are so many incarnations of God without the power of the Supreme Godhead. So here, Krishna is telling how whatever example he sets by his actions, people will follow that. And if Krishna doesn't set the right example, then people will follow that. People will follow the bad example. And in this way, Utsideyur means world will be put into ruination by following a bad example. So as God, he has to set the best example, right? And if any bad example on Krishna's part will lead to destruction. So here Prabhupada is talking about, Krishna is talking about Sankarasya chakartasyam upahanyam ima prajaha. Sankara. Prabhupada talks about Varna Sankar. Varna Sankar means bad population. What is bad population? Bad population means a population without good samskars. Imagine a family where there are, say, 5 children. And everyone is nice, well behaved. They have great respect for the parents and elders, and whatever they say, they follow. The children follow obediently. Getting up early in the morning, going to their school or colleges and studying properly on time, keeping their houses clean, rooms clean, washing their clothes, everything pakka. So such a house is very, very happy, peaceful house, right? But imagine one child is not behaving properly. So what happens? ठीक है, someone may behave badly, but at least other 4 are behaving nicely. And they can give some good instructions to the child. and somehow keep him under control. And even if he doesn't behave properly, then others can cover it up, make up for the loss. So one child, not bad, 20%. Suppose 3 children are bad. Then what happens? Then it becomes difficult. 2 are well behaved, but 3 are bad. So it's not a very happy situation. Imagine one child is very harsh, arrogant, angry, violent. Someone else is lazy. If all 5 children are bad, देखा है कभी ऐसे? All are bad. No one getting up, no one obedient to their parents, no one respects their parents, and very unclean, all bad habits, addictions. Very difficult situation for the parents and for others. तो हम बोलेंगे ठीक है, one family ना, but that's okay. Imagine a whole society like that. Everyone addicted to bad habits. No one respecting authorities. No one care to follow good instructions. And everyone unclean. All bad habits. Imagine a whole country like that. No one having faith in God, faith in higher authorities. Everyone not caring to follow any instruction. Everyone having some addictions. Imagine what will be the situation. Everyone violent and harsh, arrogant, rude speech. That kind of society will be very difficult. So Prabhupada is talking about Varna Sankar population, a population where majority of the members have bad habits, bad samskar. What will be the situation of such a society? There can be no peace or happiness. People may stay, but they will be always facing fear and insecurity, some attacks, some theft. You need all kinds of security systems in place to protect the people. You need constant training, constant punishment imposed upon someone. That is called Varna Sankar population. And such a society cannot be happy. So Krishna says, if I set a bad example, then everyone will follow that example. And Sankarasya cha kartasyam. I will be the karta, creator of such a bad population. So therefore Krishna says, I cannot, even though I am not bound to follow any rules and regulations, I still follow in order to set a good example. And if I don't follow, the society will be put into ruination. So Prabhupada talks about imitation and following. What is the difference between the two? Following someone and imitating someone. Anusaran and anukaran. Sounding similar, right? Sanskrit words, similar sounding words. Anusaranam is following. A superior tells us to follow something, gives an instruction, and we follow. We don't question the person. Are you not following? Then why should I follow? This is not anusaranam. This is a rebellion. So anusaranam means whatever the authority says, we follow. Provided we have respect and faith and confidence in the authority, and then I follow. I don't question, are you following? So anusaran. Anukaranam is whatever the authority does, I follow. Like children you have seen. The parents may come, they will offer dandavat pranam. The children will also follow. The parents will come here, they will offer Dandvat here, offer obeisance. Children will also do pranam. So initially children just do Anukaran. That's how we teach the children. We can't tell them, do this, do this. They won't listen. They will, are you doing? That's their attitude. So but when it comes to powerful personalities, Prabhupada gives the example of Lord Shiva. Shivji ne zahar pee liya tha. Samudra Manthan. So halahal, poison, Lord Shiva drank. So followers of Lord Shiva should do Anukaran or Anusaran. If they do Anukaran, then they try to do, they smoke ganja and other things. But then that is unhealthy. That is dangerous. So great personalities can do extraordinary activities, but we can't imitate them. Prabhupada gives the example of Ras Leela and Govardhan Leela. Oftentimes people question, Krishna did Ras Leela, so we can also do mini Ras Leela. Krishna ने हजारों गोपियों के साथ नाचा, मैं एक दो गोपियों के साथ नाचता हूँ. What's the problem? But then when we tell them, Krishna lifted Govardhan, can you lift Govardhan? So how can Krishna be immoral? He's setting a bad example by dancing with so many girls. That's a bad example, these people say. So therefore, this is bad. But then when we ask them, but Krishna lifted Govardhan hill also. But then they say, Govardhan, that is mythology. Who knows whether actually he lifted Govardhan or not? But then we ask them, who knows whether he did Raslila or not? Logic should apply both places, right? If you are saying one activity is mythology, other activity is immoral, that is not fair. Either both are true or both are false. You can't say Govardhan Leela is just story, false story, and Raslila is true but immoral. That doesn't work here. So, if at all we have to, so we can't imitate great personalities. We can't imitate Krishna. Just because he did Ras Leela, you can't imitate that Ras Leela. Then you have to imitate Govardhan Leela also, and many other Leela also. So in this way, Prabhupada talks about the danger of Anukaran. And we should stick to Anusaran. What are their instructions? What are the instructions of Lord Shiva? What are the instructions of Krishna in the Gita and other places? Let us understand them and try to follow. So in this way, Krishna is considering explaining to Arjun why he is following certain duties, although he is not bound to perform the duties. So this is the responsibility of a leader. We all are having some leadership position. We may be leaders of our own family, our own children, or some bigger group. We are all setting some example for others. Just by age, we become a leader. As we grow older, we naturally become a leader. People, younger generation will look up to us. So, what example are we setting for the next generation? By my behavior, by my words, by my actions, by my example. Jai Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan ki. So in this way, we find many examples in our Shastra from Mahabharata, Ramayana, the Bhagavatam and other Puranas, examples of good and bad leaders. So some people may be having a position, high position, and some people may, so to become a good leader, you need a position, you need a proper attitude also. When a person has a high position and the right attitude, then that person becomes an effective leader. So let us see examples. Some people who have high position and good attitude. So in the Mahabharata we find the example of Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir, after becoming the emperor, he was crowned after the whole war got over. Krishna and others installed him, appointed him as the emperor of the world. And the Bhagavatam describes how the rule of Yudhishthir was ideal. People were happy. The Praja would consider Yudhishthir as their father. And Yudhishthir would treat all Praja as his own children. Taking care of everyone, including animals. That's ideal king. It's not that Prabhupada writes, it's not that only human beings are your Praja and you send all the animals to slaughterhouse. That's not ideal. Anyone who is born in your land is a Praja. Whereas in modern society we find we are very concerned about protecting humans, but we establish slaughterhouses because we consider animals to be food, our food, and we don't mind killing them. That is not ideal king, ideal leader. So Yudhishthir's rule is described. How everyone would be happy. The planet Earth was happy. Climates and seasons would change on time. Timely rains, timely seasonal changes. Earth would produce a bumper crop. Enough plenty of food grains, fruits, herbs, roots, everything in abundance. All because there is a good king, good ruler. That's the effect of having a good leader. Bhagavatam also describes the rule of Parikshit. After Yudhishthir retired, Parikshit was installed as the king. And Parikshit would also had a similar rule. In fact, Parikshit's rule is described how he stopped the age of Kali from starting. Kali had entered into his kingdom, but Parikshit, by his effective leadership, stopped the influence of Kali, stopped Kali from exerting his influence. So Kali was trying to kill a cow and a bull. And when Parikshit saw that, immediately he took out his sword and wanted to kill Kali personified. In this way, it is said his kingdom there was no sin happening in his kingdom. Sin means mediating, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling. These four things are the pillars of sin. And in the rule of Parikshit, such a thing never existed. Imagine the whole planet where these things are not happening. It's ideal, right? Everyone having faith in the divine order, faith in God, faith in Krishna. Everyone, wherever he would go, he would hear the glories of Krishna being chanted, the glories of Pandavas being chanted. And in this way he felt fortunate. I am a part of that family. I am a descendant of that family. So Parikshit's rule is described. Having a high position and having the right attitude. Attitude of wanting to rule the kingdom with compassion, with sensitivity, with all good qualities. And there are other kings. We hear about Lord Ram, Ayodhya. We hear about King Prithu. The fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam describes the rule of King Prithu. Even before Prithu became the king, the subjects started glorifying him. Oh, you are going to do this, you are going to do that, this, big list. Prithu said, wait, I have not demonstrated these qualities yet. He is an avatar of Lord Vishnu. But I have not demonstrated, so you don't glorify me prematurely. Once I do something, then you can glorify. But then they knew he is going to do all these things anyway. So King Prithu is described, King Pururava, King Dhruva, Swayambhuva Manu. All these great Raja Rishis are described to show how a Raja having high position with saintly qualities, Rishi qualities, is an ideal combination. Simply Raja without saintly qualities means dictator. He will have position, but he doesn't have the devotional saintly qualities. So this combination, having a high position and the right attitude of king, that's ideal. What if you have a high position but bad attitude? What are the examples? King Vena, yeah. This also appears in the 4th canto. This was a king before King Prithu. King Vena was the emperor, the king of the planet, but he is described as a demonic king. In fact, it is said in his childhood also, he was so violent. He would torture his friends, small children, give them pain, inflict pain and injuries on them. That's how he would grow. Not that he received samskar from his parents that way, but somehow his character was like that. The parents tried their best to discipline him, but somehow he wouldn't get disciplined. And his father, out of frustration, left home. ऐसा लड़का को कैसे पाले? Out of frustration with this child, the father retired. And there was no king. So the Brahmanas thought someone has to be king. In the absence of a king, it's dangerous. A bad king is better than no king. So when there was no king, all these thieves and robbers became very active, started stealing people, looting people. So they thought, let us install Vena as the king. He सबसे बड़ा गुंडा है. If he becomes a king, other smaller gundas will be silent, disciplined. That's what happened. Vena was installed as the king, and at least for time being, temporarily, there was some peace. But the problem was Vena himself. He was the biggest gunda. So the Brahmanas tried to advise him, give him good instructions. Told him, this is not the right way to rule. You have to obey Shastra, you have to obey rishis and saints, and ultimately you have to show your obedience to God, Lord Vishnu, who is the owner of everything. Vena said, I don't care, all these things. I am the supreme. So in spite of trying their best, Vena wouldn't improve. So finally the Brahmanas decided, put an end to him. They chanted some mantras and they killed Vena. That's interesting. They didn't kill Vena immediately. Although they had the power to dethrone Vena, but they tried their best to discipline him first. Only when there was no other option, they used their mystic powers to kill Vena. And then Vena was killed, and then Prithu was born. Prithu and Archi, who is described as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu himself. And then Prithu became the king. So this is how you have high position, but very bad attitude. Vena. Even we have the example of Duryodhan and all other demonic kings, Kamsa, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravan, Kumbhakarna, and Jarasandha. All these kings, autocratic kings, having very high position, powerful armies, lot of wealth, influence, power, fame, prestige, position, but they are considered demons because of bad attitude. So therefore they have to be dethroned. And even in modern society, we find so many government leaders, politicians having high position, but then misusing their power and resources. So they may appear to enjoy life for some time, but by the power of time, they will be thrown out and they will be destroyed. So that is power and high position and bad attitude. What about low position but high attitude? Do we have any such person? High attitude, we have example of Vidura. He was considered Dasi Putra, son of a maid servant. But because he didn't hold a royal position, he didn't have a high birth, he couldn't hold a high position. He was a minister, which is a high position, but still he couldn't become the king. And therefore he didn't have a high position. But he had very good intelligence, he had high wisdom, very good scriptural knowledge, and therefore that was recognized. Vidura's wisdom was recognized. Therefore, he was appointed as one of the ministers who could advise the king. So Vidura tried his best to advise Dhritarashtra, advise Duryodhan, so that they could improve their relation with the Pandavas and improve the relation in the family and avoid the war. But despite all his efforts, it didn't work. If he had a position, probably it would have worked. But because of his lack of position, he couldn't do much. And the Bhagavatam describes how Duryodhan one time, towards the end, before the war, Vidura tried to instruct Dhritarashtra and tell him that this Duryodhan is the cause of all problem. You have to abandon him. Just abandon him. Your dynasty will be saved, the country will be saved, people will be saved. The war can be avoided. And Duryodhan heard this and he said, kick him out. Vidura should be kicked out. He is an insider, but then he is acting for the enemy. He should be thrown out. And Duryodhan insulted him publicly and Vidura left the place. Left the place, he was very hurt, very pained, offended, but he took it positively. He took it as Krishna's blessing. And then he went out, he went on a pilgrimage for several years. 35 years he was roaming all over the country, visiting all holy places. And finally he came back after a long time. So this is one example of someone who didn't have a high position, but then he had the right attitude. So we may also sometimes think, I don't have a position, therefore I am not able to do something. But we should be like Vidura. Whatever position we have, whatever resources, influence we may have, we should use it to the best of our ability. And one day, by Krishna's grace, we may get a position where we can exert bigger influence. That author Stephen Covey, he writes in his book, 7 Habits of Successful People. He talks about circle of influence and circle of concern. So there are two circles, concentric. The smaller circle of influence, and the bigger circle of concern. So we may have concern about so many things, but we may not have the influence. Our influence circle is small. So he says, continue working on the circle of influence. The circle will gradually expand. And one day, it will intersect with the circle of concern. So when you have influence, then you can address your concerns, do something about it. So right now, my influence is the small area. And I may have concern about how India should become the first top country and how India should be the best country and the richest country. But I can't do anything about it, sitting here. But I can do something sitting here. I have a certain small influence. Let me work in that area. And if I am serious, maybe I may get power to change the country, change the world. So Vidura did like that, and he was successful. Later, the Mahabharata describes how he came back and advised Dhritarashtra towards the end. He also saved many times Pandavas from getting killed, the Lakshagraha and other things. So he did his best within his influence to protect the Pandavas, serve Krishna in whatever way he could. Later he met Uddhava at a holy place, and Uddhava shared that when Krishna was about to depart this world, Krishna remembered you. Krishna remembered you before departing. So Vidura felt, he was very deeply touched. Supreme Lord, the personality of God, remembered me? That's a big honor. So in this way, Vidura is a good example. Then we have people with no position and bad attitude. Such people cannot do anything. Attitude is bad and they don't have position also. From one point of view it is good, they don't have a position if they have bad attitude. But we have examples of the other Kaurava brothers. Duryodhan, Dushasan, and they had 100 brothers total. The other brothers were simply following what Duryodhan, Shakuni and Dushasan were telling. They didn't have a high position. Their attitude was definitely bad because they were supporting Duryodhan. So such people, they just follow the mass. And even if they want to do, they can't do anything because the attitude is bad. So generally, most of the population can be like that. Often people complain, oh, this should not have happened, this should have happened, that should have happened. He is the cause of the problem, that is the person is the cause of the problem, this situation is the cause of the problem. We can keep blaming so many things. That's a bad attitude. And because we don't have position, we can't do anything. They complain, only if I had this much money, I had this position, I had this influential contact, then I can do, but I don't have. What they don't realize is they have something they could have done. And finally we have, what is missing? Low position and high attitude. High position and low attitude. Now we covered everything, right? All four. So in this way, the scriptures give us bad examples, good examples of all combinations. Prabhupada talks about imitation and following. So oftentimes bad leadership happens because bad examples are set because they start with good intentions. There are so many movements, business houses, empires, organizations, they all start with very good intentions. Maybe a charitable cause, a humanitarian cause, a social welfare cause, a religious cause, a spiritual movement. Our history shows examples of so many things. They start with good intentions, but somewhere down the line they lose focus. When they get power, when they get following, when they get power, influence, fame, prestige, then that corrupts people. They forget why the whole thing started in the first place. And by the temptation of power and wealth and influence, they start exploiting people. But initially they go on because people have faith in that leader. But then how long can that go on? How long can the subordinates tolerate this? Someday the thing comes out and then it becomes a big issue. and the leader is arrested, and the whole thing collapses. Some leaders may learn the lesson eventually. If they have good advisors surrounding them to give them good feedback, then they may rectify their actions. But most people don't learn. Like the Ramayana talks about the example of Ravan. Even Kamsa in the Bhagavatam. Ravan was committing mistake after mistake. And his advisors, some of them advised, Maricha advised, Kumbhakarna used to advise, Vibhishan was advising. But then he had other friends who kept on flattering him, pampering him. And Ravan just wouldn't listen to those advices. So then the final thing happened, Sita was kidnapped, and then we know how Lanka was destroyed and the whole dynasty was destroyed. So this is what happens when we are surrounded by, even if we have our weaknesses, if we are surrounded by good advisors, good friends who really care for us, then we are safe. Again, the Ramayana gives the example of Sugriva. Sugriva was a very nice king of the Vanar Sena, but he had some weaknesses. So when Lord Ram and Lakshman approached him for help in finding Sita, he immediately agreed. Yes, I'll send out all my army, Vanaras, all over the four directions, and we will try to locate Sita. But then what happened? Immediately monsoon started. The rainy season started. So rainy season means you can't send out people. So he said, let us wait for 4 months until the rains get over, and then I will dispatch my people, and then we will find out Sita. So Vali was killed, and Sugriva became the king, and then the rain started, and he had promised he will help in finding Sita. So he said, okay, Ram said, okay, 4 months, that's true, we can't do anything, we'll sit in one place. So 1 month, over 2 months, 4 months got over, and Sugriva somehow forgot that he had promised. Not that he forgot, but then he got carried away by the pleasures and the luxuries of royal life. So 4 months got over, rain stopped. So now we are supposed to initiate the search operation. But then he was not initiating. So Ram and Lakshmana are wondering what happened to the promise. Should we wait? How long should we wait? And no message from Sugriva. So Lakshmana got angry. He said, let us put an end to Sugriva himself. Bahut ho gaya iska natak. So Lakshmana went charging towards the capital, Sugriva's capital. Fortunately, someone noticed him. Who was that? Hanuman noticed him. Hanuman happened to be a very good advisor, friend of Sugriva, minister. He could understand that Lakshmana is coming with a totally different motive, not as a friend. So immediately he took corrective steps. In fact, he was actually telling Sugriva before also, that Sugriva, come on, monsoon has ended, do something, do something. And Sugriva said, yeah, I'll do. He kept on postponing things. Finally, Lakshman came. I was about to come. So immediately he informed Sugriva, look, the day has arrived, now you have to do something. Better get ready, give some good reply to Lakshman, promise him that I am sending. So that's what happened when Lakshman came. Sugriva was somehow, he admitted, he apologized for the delay, and then he said, don't worry, I will send. And with the help of his wife Tara and, who was the other one? Tara and all came forward and pacified Lakshman, saying, our husband got carried away by the luxuries of palace life, so please forgive him. But very soon he will begin the search operation. So if a leader is surrounded by good friends and ministers, then such a person is safe. But people who are autocratic, demonic, they will surround themselves with people who simply flatter them, like Ravana. Even Kamsa, the Bhagavatam explains how when Kamsa heard the Akashvani that the eighth child of Devaki and Vasudeva is going to kill him, all his ministers advised him, you should kill all children. All the children should be killed. Initially, Kamsa was not planning to kill all of them, but his ministers advised that all children should be killed. So this is what happens when you are surrounded by demonic kings, demonic ministers, friends. And then by the advice of the ministers, Kamsa started persecuting all the inhabitants of his kingdom. Anyone who was connected to the Yadu Vamsha, Yadu dynasty, Krishna's dynasty, everyone was persecuted. Then they had to run away from the city and take shelter of all other neighboring cities and towns, remote places. All because of bad advice given by Kamsa's ministers. But when the king is surrounded by good ministers like Hanuman or Vibhishan or Vidura, such wise ministers who are grounded in Shastric wisdom, when a leader has such advisors, then even if the leader commits a mistake, the advisors can correct him. These advisors usually don't occupy a big position, but then they are acting as consultants and advisors. They are monitoring what behavior of the king is adversely impacting the subject or positively impacting the subject. And in this way, the king is protected. So in this way, we have scriptures, examples from all scriptures, trying to show how a good king can create a good revolution in society. Like Chanakya and Chandragupta. Chanakya was an advisor. Chandragupta was the king. Alone he couldn't have done. But because he had the advice, he had an advisor in the form of Chanakya, Chandragupta was able to become the king. But Chanakya didn't hold any position. And then we have bad examples. Bad examples of Ravana, Kamsa and others. So Krishna here saying, Utsi deyuri me loka nakuryam karma chedaham. If I set a bad example, I will create ruination of society. Society will be put into ruin by my one bad example. Sankarasya chakartasyam. I will be the cause of bad population. So as we discussed, bad population means population with bad samskars. Oftentimes people say overpopulation is a big problem. But overpopulation is not a problem. If the population is well behaved, overpopulation is an asset. Bad population, even if it's small in number, is a liability. So training and education in good samskars is what is needed. And if the entire population can be trained in good value systems, good scriptural wisdom, spiritual knowledge, then such a population is the best thing a country can have. Everyone cultured in their thoughts, words and actions and behavior, and all progressively working towards spiritual welfare. Such a country will naturally be the best country in the world. So Krishna is a responsible person, is trying to set a good example, and is instructing Arjun that you also, Arjun, should fight the war and set a good example for the entire society. Not run away from your duty of fighting. Fight the war because that's your duty, and in this way you will set a good example for the entire society and lead everyone towards the right direction. So in this way, Krishna continues the topic. We will stop here and continue next week. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. Hare Krishna.